Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. Hello, ladies and gentle scrotes, and welcome to episode 19 of Prog Review with yours truly, Fudd Buglycucker. This time we turn our faces to the Mediterranean and to the land of beautiful women, exquisite fashion, and a political system with a penchant for bunga parties. Yes, we're in Italy, and we're taking in the sights, sounds and smells of Premiati Funeri Marconi, or PFM, the only progressive rock band ever to break out of Italy and have a modicum of success in the real world. The band actually takes its name from their lead singer, who was the great godson of Guglielmo Marconi, the inventor of the wind-up electric toothbrush, and he was the deviser of Marconi's law, which states that if an album cover was designed by Roger Dean, then it's highly likely that the music contained therein is prog. Of course, I jest. That's all a lie. The actual name came from the bakery where the band used to rehearse, and they added the Premiati to the beginning in order to make the name more memorable and to be a bit of a brag as well, as the actual translation comes out as the award-winning Marconi Bakery. I'll just unplug my direct link to Wikipedia now, and I can continue with my diatribe. The band were discovered by ELP when they were touring, and were eventually signed to Manticore Records, which was owned by ELP, and they were assigned Peter Sinfield as producer and lyricist for their first English language album, Photos of Ghost, the album I'm actually reviewing. Funnily enough, the album itself was made up of tracks that appeared previously on their native Italian language albums. Oh yes, I remember the very first time I was introduced to PFM and the album Photos of Ghosts. A tatty-looking cassette was given to me by Jerry Ewing. He's the current editor of Classic Rock's Prog magazine. Oh yes, what a name dropper I am. He used to sit opposite me in an office where I worked, and he handed me this cassette, and I just didn't get around to listening to it and ended up giving it back to him and making up an excuse that I'd listened to it. And I said, that usual thing of, oh yeah, very good. I can see why you like it, man. Yeah, a lot of influences in it, And then later on, when PFM's music came up on eMusic, I downloaded it and became familiar with it properly. So now you know. But I digress. The album opens with a nylon guitar piece, which wouldn't be out of place on a Steve Hackett album. And then it goes a bit baroque and roll with flute and pseudo harpsichord. It's quite a jaunty piece, and then blammo! It gets heavy. And I like the discord, the change between the two styles, their stabbing pianos and violins, and then back to the vocals. Now, one of the major problems I have with the album is that they've made the poor singer, he's got an obvious accent, and they've made him sing in English, which isn't his natural language of choice. It's not his native language, and so the intonation of the lyrics is a little bit off. But if you can get past the vocals and the lyrics, you're treated to a sweeping, majestic section akin to Genesis at full flight. And the funny thing is they do tend to mix styles throughout the song. In fact, the song changes so many times, but there's enough to keep even the jaded listener interested. But there's this constant sense of forward momentum, which is a good thing. The end section is particularly satisfying, complete with King Crimson mellotrons and a suitably fuzzy explosion. You know it's prog if there's an explosion at the end of a song. Maybe it's the end of the world, who knows. And then the second track is the actual hit of the album, It's called Celebration, and apparently it was a radio hit over in the United States of America. And although I'm sure I've never consciously heard the song on the radio, it has a jaunty familiarity about it. It's a bit like Focus, with less yodelling and more Moog synths. It's good fun, if a little throwaway. The vocal phrasing reminds me of early Split Enz, funny enough. Those guys are from New Zealand. But we'll talk about them in maybe a future episode of Prog Review. What do you reckon? Does that float your boat? Then comes the title track, and it's a subdued number, and it builds quite an atmosphere. Unfortunately, the lyrics, for me, just for me, are completely unintelligible thanks to the lead singer's accent. Again, this is no slight on the singer. I think he has a pretty hard job to do. But there is some great musical work in there. The rhythm section and interplay with the lead guitar is nice and tight. The violin solo instantly gives you memories of Caravan, and it's quite a heady mix. And it ends with some ELP synths in there for some good measure, so you get a real blend of prog. In fact, the music itself sounds rather English in its outlook. You wouldn't necessarily believe it would be an Italian band culturally. There's a lot of you can hear where they've taken their inspirations from. And then at 3 minutes 31 seconds come the single greatest moment of the record for me. This section, it hooked me. It's complete with burbling bass, some excellent rhythm guitar, and as they would say, it's magnifico. Let's see what I did there. And I reckon the synth part on this end section was actually nicked by Marillion for their Garden Party song. Listen to it and see if you agree. Then comes Old Rain. It's the fourth track of the album. And again, it repeats the Caravan vibe, and I'm thinking La Borge du Sanglier from their For Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night album. In fact, both albums were released in the same month of October 1973. That's spooky, isn't it? And it's a bit of a meandering piece, but it's got enough changes of instrumentation and movement to keep you interested, and that is a common theme with all the songs on this PFM album, is they really do mix things up a bit. And there's always this forward sense of motion, like you're heading somewhere. And then, if you want to hear what PFM sound like in their native tongue, Il Banchetto features Italian lyrics. And instantly you can hear the vocalist, he sounds more confident and relaxed and more in control of his voice. Okay, you can't understand a word he sings, but the song feels more cohesive this way. It's the longest track on the album, and the band really go to town, again throwing every prog rock lick in the book. It's a bit sprawling. Excuse Alex there for sneezing. He's got a bit of a sneezy cold at the moment. But you know, despite being a bit sprawling, the quality of the playing makes up for its lack of focus. But the thing I really dig is the creamy guitar tone that's spattered throughout the song, and if I could replicate that, I think I'd be a happy man. Of course, there's always at least one fly in the ointment, or in this case, a dead rat in the loaf. No, that didn't work. Oh, got to try, haven't I? And that's Mr. 9 to 5. This song, it starts off interesting, and has this kind of sub-King Crimson pastiche feel about it. And there's some good playing later in the track, but the vocals and the lyrics, just for me, they just get in the way. It's like 50-50 good and bad. That's the division. You know, if you took out the vocal bits and kind of edited the song differently, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more if it was purely instrumental. And the last track on the album is something called Promenade the Puzzle, and it makes full use of Peter Sinfield's incredibly naff lyrics. Again, it's pastoral in tone with some very nice flute work, and there's some piano. There's a piano section in the middle of it that's very reminiscent of the work that Anthony Phillips did in his solo career. Anthony Phillips, if you don't know, he's from Genesis. He's the guy that left with stage fright. But then, you know, it builds really nicely, and then it ends going all happy clappy kind of. You know, I just thought, oh. Again, it follows the template of all the other PFM songs. It tends to be all over the place. There's a real lack of focus and you're kind of being pulled in all different directions at once. Again, there's many different styles thrown at you all over in the space of a few minutes, and it ends up being quite dizzying. And now this leads me to my kind of criticism of the record. The band are very technically accomplished, and they're very good players. If you read up about them, you'll understand they've been playing for many years before they did this PFM album. So they have there's no fear of them being amateurs or underdeveloped as players. And they have some really good ideas, but you get a sense that they tend to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks, rather than actually taking their time to develop the material. I might be completely wrong. They might like throwing everything at the wall. They might like this could be their trademark. I don't know. It's the only album of theirs I've listened to. But with all this stuff flying around, it does kind of get a bit unfocused. You do get a sense of a band kind of struggling to find its identity. And also, I have a real big problem with Peter Sinfield's super sucky lyrics. They suck harder than a crack whore going cold turkey. The words are convoluted and designed to twist the tongue in such a way that even a native English speaker would have trouble singing them. I think that's one of the reasons Boz Burrell had a trouble with him when he was time with King Crimson on the Islands album. Is it's really hard to emote when you've got a mouthful of words. So the poor bastard in this case, he didn't stand a chance. And also his phrasing, it doesn't sound too dissimilar to that of Pete Sinfield himself if you listen to his Still album. And I imagine that Sinfield may have been in the booth with the singer and coaching him along. Such is the similarity between the two vocalists. In fact, you could call those two albums, they're almost like companion pieces. They would sit well together, Still and Photos of Ghosts, even though they were recorded at different times. So yeah, the really great thing, especially if you download this off of eMusic, a service that I use, is you get the expanded edition of the album, and it features a couple of songs from the record as instrumental pieces, which gets rid of those lyrics, and you can hear the playing better. You can really concentrate on the playing, which is nice. So instrumental pieces without the crappy lyrics, epic bonus win. Yeah. And for what it's worth, there's a link in the description that gives you some cash when you sign up for a free trial with eMusic. I guess it's dependent on your region in the world, but then it'll give you a chance to sample the record without spending any of your hard-earned shekels. No, don't thank me. No, it's all right. I do this as part of my community service, Yeah. So regarding the rating, I wholeheartedly recommend that you listen to this record, in order to just to bolster your prog credentials. Something you can talk to with your other prog fans. Have you heard the PFM Photos of Ghosts album? You can, and then they go, who? And you go, oh, check them out. They're Italian. And you know how the Italians love prog rock for whatever reason. I'll still never know the cultural relevance of progressive rock to Italy. If there's any Italians out there, let me know why your country embraced prog rock as a style. I'm fascinated to find out why. So now I have to give a rating. Now I'm going to give this a none too shabby 3.5 Berlusconis out of 5. You got half a Berlusconi knocked off purely for Pete Sinfield's appalling lyrics. He does a good job with the production. The production's nice, but the words, I think he scuppered the record with his words, and it's a great shame that they didn't do a direct translation of the original and let the singer try and learn those. But yeah, check them out. Check PFM out. If you've already heard them, let me know what you think. If you haven't, check them out. Let me know. Again, any advice, any things you want me to look at, leave them in the comments box, and I will turn my attention to you in due time. So that's it. Ciao, baby. And do it like they do it in Italia. And prog on.